But I wanted to come by here. Yes, I have a school board workshop, but you know, old Marcus Chambers is in there this morning. He'll take care of things for me until I get there. This is very important to me. What you do is very important to me. My children absolutely loved sports, all of them. It was a huge part of their life. And in so many ways, you taught them some of the same things I was trying to teach them. Respect, listen, be coachable. You're part of something bigger than yourself. Don't whine. I can't remember. I can't whine about that. Well, Coach Webb said, don't you be a whiner. And you taught them those things. And for that, I am very grateful. This is important enough to me that I find the money to do this. We may have to scrape it up out of the bathroom tissue project we have, but that's okay. We find it. This is important to me. I want you to be the best trained coaches in the state of Florida, because the last thing I want is for something unfortunate or tragic to happen to you, because I feel responsible to make sure you know what you need to know to be a good coach. I love some sports now, and we're a sports family, and we can get a little excited with one another from time to time when our colleges are playing and all of that. But I can tell you this, from cheerleading to track to basketball, baseball, football, volleyball, golf, whatever it is, it's important, because to some kid, some child, it's important. You know, I have a 14-year-old granddaughter who lives in Houston, Texas, and why in the world she wants to be one of those people that runs with that stick, you know, and jumps over that thing. But that is her love. She loves it. I said, couldn't you pick something like, you know, softball? Oh, no, you don't understand. Track is all there is. That's all there is. And she believes that. But what it has done for her is it has made her challenge herself way further than she ever thought she could do something. And she is brave, scares me to death. Her daddy videos it for me, sends it to me. You know, you always think, what if that little stick breaks? And, you know, that would be bad. And, but, you know, that's what she does. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking your time. I know some of you probably mad as fire because you had to leave your school. Well, you'll get over it, because this is important. It is important to me. And I thank you for coming. And I thank you, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Humphrey, for putting this together for us. You know, when I come in their office and go, I've got a little something I want y'all to think about, and they go, oh Lord, what? And you have to tell them. But so many of you, I've seen you in schools, I've seen you work with kids. I know your love for kids, and I thank you for that. So y'all behave today. I don't want to get a call from the president of this college that we've had a wild bunch of coaches down here. You're going to keep them straight, aren't you, Mr. Bugaloo? That's your job. You're in charge. Okay? All right. Y'all have a great day, and thank you for letting... I see back there in the back. Way back there in the back. There's a guy back there by the name of Mr. Gillis. Who's in charge of Mr. Gillis? Bud, you in charge of Gillis. Hey, he is at your school. Why aren't you back there with him? How you doing, Coach? All right, good. All right, guys, we'll see you later.
On behalf of Superintendent Mary Beth Jackson, I want to thank each and every one of you for being in attendance here. As our superintendent, one of the things that she acknowledged when she took office was the need for training and continued improvement. She shared with me in the past that one of the most difficult things she hears from folks from time to time, I didn't know. And so this is one of the ways that we train. This is one of the ways we keep our coaches and our athletic programs informed in some of the newest and most current policies. We have some guest speakers here from around the state that will be making some presentations to you later in the day. Some of you are here to get points. We hope that all of you take advantage of getting points. There's a reflection form for in-service points that at the end of the day you'll fill out. You'll submit these forms to Mr. Humphrey. If you leave here and it's not filled out, just put it in the Courier, Student Services, Carver Hill, Brian Humphrey. Get those points that are made available for you. Let's look at some of the other handouts that we'll be going over today. There is a conflict of interest, questions and answers. We're really not going to spend a lot of time going over that, if at all. It's something that you can read and look at. Bottom line there is, coaches, if you're teaching a child on the side that you are teaching in school or coaching in school, and you have that child on the side on a team, and that child's giving you payment, teaching them whatever, or an organization is paying you on the side to teach that child, you just can't do it, okay? Conflict of interest, several scenarios in here. Like I say, we're not going to spend the time to really go over that. We'll spend some time on the next page. It's titled Guidelines for Second Semester Eligibility Status Changes. That's especially important for all of our high school programs. Next, there's a technical assistance memo for student activity transportation. It deals with every scenario from using our buses with a regular bus driver all the way down to having parents transport their vehicles and the steps that need to be followed. Mr. Kutsarardis, our assistant superintendent, will be here later in the morning to go over that. You have a new copy. Nothing's been changed, but it's just clean and crisp of our heat index chart. That one is for football specifically. The chart looks the same as the other chart, but the information beneath the chart's a little bit different because it addresses specifically pads and equipment and things that can be worn different phases of the temperature chart. The next chart you have is the heat chart for be used in physical education classes and all other extracurricular activities that are outdoors, from band to ROTC to everything that's outdoors. We have for our high schools Policy 41, heat acclimatization policy, and we'll be hearing some more about that later in the day. We have a handout that deals with recommendations for hydration to prevent heat illness. And then the last item I believe that you have in that little clip is our standard for lightning safety that we use. And just to emphasize one point before we move away from it, outdoor safety, the very first item, if you can hear thunder, you are within striking distance of lightning. Look for shelter inside a home, a large building, a hardtop vehicle right away. So if you can hear thunder during a PE class or a practice that's outside, when you hear thunder, what do you need to do? Go inside right away, okay? Lightning strikes pretty fast. Mr. Kutsarardis will be here later today, and he's going to be talking about some lightning detection systems that are being installed in our secondary schools, and that will take place during the summer. The last item that you have in terms of a handout is the Code of Ethics, Principles of Professional Conduct, the education profession in Florida. Steve Chapman and Mr. Arden Farley will be here later in the morning to address these topics. So we will move forward with our FHSAA presentation. Mr. Damon and Mr. Harrison, if you gentlemen will come forward and share with us.
Good morning. Can you hear me now? Good. My name is Craig Damon. I am the Associate Executive Director for Compliance and Eligibility. Moved in this position back in August of this school year. The 2 previous years I was a sport administrator was sport administrator my first year with the association in swimming and diving. I did boys soccer and also did softball. Last year I was the football administrator, girls basketball administrator, and track and field. And during the spring last year applied for a position that used to be held by Mrs. Marva Thornton. And now I'm in a new position, a whole different field. But I want to say to you guys that, you know, I spent 20 years as a public school, high school coach. I was an athletic director for 7 years, head football coach for 14 years, and I know exactly probably the way you guys feel now because I kind of used to hold these in-service type things for coaches. It was the last thing that I wanted to do. So thinking with that in mind, the information I'm going to share with you guys today is things that I thought that would be useful to me when I was a coach. Things that I think that I didn't hear from my AD or just weren't aware of. So I wanted to make sure that we included things today that would be beneficial to you as a coach. Because again, a lot of times, maybe you don't ask your AD or don't know you hadn't had that conversation with the AD, and it's something that you think about doing that may be on the borderline of being legal or not. So please, throughout the presentation today, ask questions. That's what we're here for. My job, again, thinking as a coach, want to get out and be in front of as many people as possible, because when you hear from us, you know, people aren't speculating and trying to interpret what is intended by bylaws. You can ask us and we can provide that information for you. Contact information will be up on the screen in a little bit. So I please encourage you to call, email. I have no issues with you asking questions. There are no dumb questions. When you don't ask the question and get in trouble, then that's when we have an issue. So please get my contact information, and feel free to contact me at any time.
Good morning. Everybody hear me all right? All right. I'm Justin Harrison. I do work with Craig. I am an associate executive director. I oversee the athletic side of things. Craig's kind of the compliance. I'm kind of the athletics, meaning, you know, games, officials, playoffs, etc. So similar to Craig, I don't have as many wins as he does. I was also a coach and an AD at a school, at a public school prior to joining the staff as well. So again, we always try to tailor these talks, as Craig mentioned, to try to help you out. As a former coach, as a former AD, these are the things that I would want to know. You know, mainly, you know, again, just to stay out of trouble, but also to help to guide you so you're doing the right thing and you're most up to date. So hopefully this will be, you know, a good hour and a half for you this morning from us. If not, please let Brian and Andy know. You know, we've come up here now the last few years. We're more than happy to keep on coming up every year. So we want to make this geared towards you so you get what all you need out of it. And a couple of quick things I want to say before I turn it back over to Craig is there's a lot of stuff out there as a coach that I didn't know. I thought one of the main things I thought is whoever was on staff, they're the ones who actually created the rules and created the policies. However, being on staff now, I know that that's actually not the case. The funny thing is, as a coach and as an AD, you have a bigger voice than we do on staff. So when you think of the FHSAA is all of us. Yes, our staff is there to enforce rules. We have boards and committees who create rules. Obviously, we need officials who join us as well to officiate our games. So what I want to do is plug our advisory committees. There's sport advisory committees. There's athletic director advisory committees. We send this information out at all times, so we encourage you to be a part of it. We need to hear all the voices of what's going on. I've been out of the school now this is my eighth year on staff. So it's been a little while since I've been at a school site, so a ton has changed since the 8 years I've been at a school. So that's why we need to hear from you on what all needs to be done, what all needs to change. I just had you keep in mind that we're a very unique state here in Florida. When rules are created, they're created for the entire state. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind, that we try to create rules. And I say we, again, it's all of us, try to create rules that's best for the student athletes across the state. And again, we definitely appreciate the time this morning, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it.
Okay. Very powerful statement there. As a former coach, as a former athlete, Coaches are the most underrated profession in the world, in my opinion. Have the most impact on anybody just in 1 year. That quote there is very dear to us, and we think, as the association staff members, we feel very strong and very positive about this statement. Because a coach can have an impact on a kid's life that lasts a lifetime. Where other professions, teachers may do things to help educate a kid, but as a coach, I walk the halls or go to the mall or go to places now. I haven't coached in 4 years, and people still refer to me as coach. Kids that are 35 years old, that's what I tell them age a little bit there. See them in town, and it's still Coach Damon, not Mr. Damon, not Craig, it's Coach Damon. So that title is something that stays with you, sticks with you forever because of the impact that as coaches we play on the lives of those individuals. Again, that's just more information about the two of us, our little ugly mug shots from the website, but our contact information just tells you what areas we cover. Justin, like I said, athletics, officials, advisory committees, and this is going to the last slide too, so don't worry about getting the numbers and emails right now. Myself, eligibility and compliance, if any of you have been to section appeals, we had a student go to section appeals. I'm the one that runs the section appeals throughout the state. And allegations and self-reports. We get numerous allegations and self-reports, and there are some examples, some slides I'm going to show later on that give you an example of some of the things that we've gotten just this past spring, and just want to bring it to your attention so that we can be a little bit better aware of it. House bill. Before I get into the House bill, I want to talk about the House bill a little bit, and this is something our staff had to sort of remind ourselves of. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, you need to change your attitude. And, from staff, we all felt the same as you guys did when things were going on up in Tallahassee the past couple of months, and knowing the impact it was going to have on our member schools, and knowing some of the gray lines and uncertainty that it's going to bring, we were very adamant, upset about some of the things. But at the end of the day, we have a job to do, and that's, governing high school sports. Student athletes are depending on us to run the association, depending on you as a coach to coach them up. So we sort of have to put aside, our personal feelings towards the House bill. There's no secret that probably none of us in here enjoyed what took place in that House bill, but we have a job to do, and we need to put that behind us and move forward. And the way you do that is you change your attitude about it. Okay, this is what it is. This is how I can help my kids, and that has to be what drives us. These are some facts and bills and just some things that I've heard lately. People called in and asked about saying athletes can attend one school and play sports in another school. Is that true or false? False. Good. Control open enrollment makes athletic recruiting permissible. True or false? Had some schools down south, actually a headmaster down south, whose basketball coach came into her and said, hey, let's join by sport. Let's not join FHSAA for basketball, and now that we're not a member of FHSAA basketball, we can go out and recruit all these kids and bring them in our school. And we can have a great basketball team, even though we're not playing for the state championship, but what it's going to do is benefit our other sports because we got all these athletes. The headmaster picked up the phone, called our executive director, and was like, hey, when did this change? It's like, well, hang on a second, nothing changed. Recruiting is still recruiting. Recruiting is, when you look at the state statute, it doesn't say member schools, it says all schools are governed and held accountable for recruiting. So that's a bit. Other thing, there are no penalties for non-school employees for recruiting. Right, myth? False. And that's one of the things. The bill specifically addresses school employees, but it also states that if the person is not a school employee, that our regular sanctions that the FHA has in place for recruiting would be, which would be a fine to the school, forfeit a contest, possibly changing you to a different classification, move you up a classification, and additional things that can also go along with that. And the last one, the athletes, and again, these are actual phone calls that I got from parents, but I've gotten from school administrators asking that, kids are able to try at several schools before finally picking a school and being able to play a sport. No, that's not true. Kid, if he doesn't make one team, he can't jump ship and go to the next school and try out there and shop himself around to make himself available to the school that he feels the best fit for. So just wanted to clear those things up because again, these are phone calls that my office has received the past couple months on those.
You can attend one school, participate in sports in another school. Attend Okaloosa Collegiate School.
Correct. If you're a charter school, but as far as public schools, this was,
Or if they don't offer a sport.
all for charter schools. If it's a public high school and not a charter high school, public schools, for example, I give you public schools in Marion County, and offer house. We have a charter school that don't offer any sports, but all our other high schools are public high schools. A kid that plays, that attends to offer in high school cannot go to Vanguard because we don't offer basketball, play basketball at Vanguard. But if you are at a charter school and they don't offer that sport, and a new change this year is non-member private schools, which we'll talk about in a little bit, at under 125, they're treated the same as charter school students. So if that school, in the past, the bylaw has been that the school couldn't offer any sports at all for you to participate. Now it's the same as a charter school student. If a particular sport is not offered, then you can go to the zone public school that you would be required to attend, or if there's school of choice, go to the school of choice and participate, but it has to be a public school. So right now, we're dealing with one issue where a non-member private school student played at another private school during football season and played all 10 games in the private school. It's like, well, they didn't know that case. Well, it says in the bylaw, and actually in state statute, that they must play at a public school. It cannot be a private school that those kids participate at.
Some charters are public and some are private.
Yes, they are.
So it's the
Has to be-
private charters that you're talking about.
The private charges, correct. Talking about House Bill 7029 a little bit, and this is sort of an overview of the bill, some of the highlights of it. Initial eligibility. Schools have always had the first line of determining initial eligibility. Even though in the bill they put it in there and made it, I guess, a state law, but schools have always had that authority, that power. The applicant, when you look at the kids' GPA, you look at the classes that they take, you make a determination of who's eligible. The only time we get involved with eligibility is if a school sends a EL10 in, which is a request for eligibility ruling. Other than that, the AD, the FHA representative at each school, is the one to determine whether a kid is eligible or not eligible. So that was one of the things that was pointed out in the bill. The next are non-member private schools. We spoke about on that one a little bit. If you're less than 125 students at a non-member private school, and again, like I said in the past, if you weren't offered sports, or you couldn't offer any sports in order for that kid to participate. Now, it's the same as a charter school student. If you don't offer a particular sport, that kid can go to their home zone school or a public school, or the public schools and control open enrollment and participate in that particular sport. So I don't know if there's any non-member private schools in you guys county or not. Eligibility standards. This is something probably not so much for the schools, but for the school district. Florida state statute states that anything that a county or has in place that involves eligibility standards or discipline standards must be included in your code of conduct, student code of conduct handbook. And I know, to speak with some counties, they had to begin to look at this, but school year's going to start pretty soon. And I know a lot of, if you like our office, we used to send things to press about this time and already have everything prepped to go get printed out for the following school year. So if you have not looked at that and addressed that area, that's something that you need to jump on pretty quick, because if it's not listed in your code of conduct, what the state law says is that you can't enforce that during the school year. So for example, if a county has a GPA policy of a 2.5, which is more stringent than what the FHSAA has in place, and you say in order to be an athlete in our county, you must have a 2.5 GPA in order to participate in athletics. But if that's not listed in your code of conduct, you're going to run into some lawyers and some parents are going to challenge that in court, or challenge that with you. And state statute says that it must be listed. Any eligibility standards or disciplinary standards must be included in your student code of conduct. So if there's things that the county has in place, make sure you guys get those in your student code of conduct, so that now every kid is aware of what the standards are for eligibility and for discipline, and there's no issues with that may come up at a later time. Membership by sport. That was a big thing that was included by one of the conferences that wanted to take away some of our kids, and we won't get into that big discussion. But membership by sport. State statute now says that we must allow private schools to, if they choose to join by sport, or they can choose to be full members. Just the benefits between the two, and it's been a little controversy down in Central Florida area about this bylaw or this policy, because we've always had a bylaw since you look back at our books since 1999 that stated as a full member you can participate in all of our state athletic championship games, as well as be a representative, be on representative assembly, or be on our committees. Well, as a member by sport, you're not a full member. So some of the private schools that were considering joining by sport have looked at it and it's like, well, what's the benefit of being joined by sport? There's no benefit really to them. So the question that one school has been making a big stir about in the media is that they felt that we are not following what the state legislature said. Well, this bylaw has been in place saying that only full members are allowed to participate in state series. And that's an argument we got, but we're standing firm on that because, again, if you're going to be a part of our championships, we want you to be fully involved. There's no other place, no other thing you can do and reap all the benefits unless you are a full member. So that was full membership. Transfer eligibility. This is the big one that everybody sort of got a little scared about. Before, when this was coming up, we looked at the number of transfers that we have per year, and we probably have about 10,000 transfers per year throughout the whole state of Florida. Most of our transfers were taking place at the semester time or around the end of the 9 weeks. If kids were transferring for academic reasons like they're supposed to. We had a bylaw last year stated that if you transferred in before the beginning of the sports season started, you were eligible to participate. Okay. Well, now the new bylaw says that these kids are immediately eligible. Well, it's not. We are assuming or perceiving that transfers will still take place around the same time at the semester, at the end of the 9 weeks, because as a parent, it's hard to imagine me as a parent, me pulling my kid out in the middle of 9 weeks and taking them to a different school when those grades trying to jive together. It's not going to happen. So most folks wait to the end of the 9 weeks or end of the semester. And if you think about it from that mindset, we're talking about possibly about 2 weeks difference in what we've already had previously. And when they say immediately eligible, and just to clarify that a little bit, as long as they meet all of the eligibility standards, they still got to have a 2.0, they still got to have a current physical on file, birth certificate, have not been in high school or more than 4 years, or age limit. All those things still have to come into place before they're immediately eligible. We have taught, and we're, immediately eligible doesn't mean the first day you get there, you have to put them on the athletic field. Because we all know that's not going to happen, because number one, first you got to verify, wait for official transfer to come in from the previous school to make sure that the student is eligible. So immediately eligible means that they're able to participate in practice, to do things until you can confirm that they meet all eligibility requirements to be able to compete in the contest. So that immediately eligible, don't get that confused that you got to put them on the field the first day they're there in the contest. Instead, you still got to go through the steps of making sure that that student is eligible and they meet all of the eligibility requirements. So that is big. And they must not or may not have participated in a sport at the previous school. And if they have, then there's 4 exceptions there, which are things that we've always had in place. If a kid transferred and it met one of those 3 things, we grant that kid eligible anyway. But now, the legislature just put it in the state law. First one is if it's an active military duty move or move order, and the parents move and the kid needs to move to a school, that kid, even though they started out in volleyball in the fall and they changed the schools because of that reassignment, that kid is eligible to continue playing volleyball at the new school because there was a fully complete move or it was because of military duties. If it's changing foster care, which that happens sometimes where kids with one foster parent and just placed in a different foster home, that kid is eligible, which we've always had that in place as well. The last one, third one is court-ordered custody change. And I emphasize court-ordered custody change because a lot of folks will just say, okay, all right, mom said custody, now I'm going to get dad custody. If it's not court-ordered by state law, that kid is not eligible to participate. And that's state law. And it's not our deal, that's one of the exceptions that they put in. It has to be by court order from either separation, divorce, illness, death, or whatever. It has to be court ordered. And that's going to be one of those gray areas because some socioeconomic areas, people don't go to court to get a custody change. It's just, all right, you know, I paid you for half the year, and I'm going to give you to your dad or your mom, and your mom's going to take you for the rest of the year. It needs to be documented on a court order for it to meet one of the exceptions that state legislators put in. The last one there, and we've been debating it in the office and at the FHSAA conference this past weekend. There's a lot of discussion about that with county ADs. And they talk about the good cause policy by the school district. So we asked the school districts to sort of reach out to some of the other districts so we can sort of be consistent. You know, we don't want one school district stating, making it a little bit easier for kids to transfer and be eligible, when we got one that's just strict and hard line, and you know, if you don't do all these things, you're not eligible. So we sort of would like to have some similarities and consistency, but you know, 67 counties, that the likelihood of that happening is probably going to be next to impossible. But again, things that we consider good causes at the beginning of the year, you know, one school's overcrowded, got another school undercrowded, and the district moves some kids over there to fill in some of those seats. That's good cause. One of the things that was left off in the exceptions is we've always had a bylaw in place with an exception that was for full and complete move. Everybody in the household moved to a different location, and kid is eligible to participate. That bylaw was amended back in October by Representative Assembly to say someone living in the house previously with that kid, and that kid moves to another location, which in our interpretation would cover separation. But, you know, even though there's no divorce, but a lot of times we have legal separation where one spouse leaves the house and takes the kids with them. We were getting a lot of feedback and a lot of appeals we were seeing were about, well, you know, mom, is separation there. Well, there wasn't a bylaw that protected separation before. So we amended our bylaw to say that as long as one person living in the household that was living there previously with the student moved to the new residence and everything was moved to the new student moved to the household, that that kid was eligible. That is not included, so that would be one of the things we would hope would be good cause policy. If there's a magnet program, school of choice here, the kid applies for a magnet program and you don't know that you got available seats during the summer, school year starts, kid goes out for, and this, again, most of these things will affect the fall seasons, goes out for cross country, participates in cross country practice for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden that seat opens up at the school that he applied for back in January to be a part of that magnet program. Gets accepted, accepts the magnet position. Well, we feel the county should make that kid eligible because it was all the things were done ahead of time to apply for a school. It just so happened that it wasn't a seat available, but once the seat available came, the kid moved. And we all know as coaches, if a kid was at my school and he didn't come out in the first couple weeks of practice, you know, you ain't gonna wait for week 3 until you're coming out when everybody else got in week 2. So that will allow a student to at least begin participating in the sport because they don't know whether or not they're going to get accepted. And then if exception takes place, then that kid would be eligible to go to the new school. It's not saying that you're going to apply in April, or in August when school partly starts, like the coach, now I'm going to try to get the school district moving. No, it had been done prior. It was something that it was just waiting on a seat for. Mid-season transfers. This is something that, again, a lot of debate this weekend about mid-season transfers. If a kid had not participated in sport and say cross country, we're in week 3 of regular season or 2 weeks before the district tournament, and kid transfers into the school, had not participated in that sport in the previous school. According to state statute, it says that it's up to, if there's a roster spot available, the coach feels that the kid has the skills necessarily to be a part of the team, and the kid meets all of the eligibility requirements, then that kid is eligible to participate under those conditions. So that's something a little new. We asked for at least a deadline, you know, for the fall sports, saying after a certain point in time, kids can transfer in mid-season and participate, but we did not get that. Because one of the things we feared was, hey, if I'm a talented football player and I don't think my school is doing very well, I'm going to sit back in the first 2 or 3 weeks and see which team is looking the best. And I may choose to transfer to that school and participate in that school because that school like this is going to have a state run. Where my school I was previously at, I know we're going to go 0-10 and we're not going to lose. So we were asking for a deadline for allowing transfers just to cover those type of situations. We didn't get it, so that could be something that comes up. But again, it says a roster spot's available, and that if the coach feels that the kid skills are capable. So as coaches, as school administrators, athletic directors, we can sort of control that a little bit. because the roster spot may not be available. We may be at our capacity for our school, so that leaves it in you guys' hands to sort of control that a little bit as far as that's concerned. Any questions about transfers? We want to move on from transfers. Another part of the House bill deals with recruiting, and this is, I guess, from our department, we feel it's a challenge from the legislators that maybe we're not doing a good enough job policing recruiting. So they put some stuff in state law that I guess we weren't finding people enough or putting out enough sanctions that made things a little bit more interesting, to say the least. Just want to make sure everybody understands recruiting. If you're a school district employee, which means you either teach for the school district or you coach for the school district and get paid for coaching, even though you don't teach there, this applies to you. If you are, and we're recruiting, let's talk about that a little bit. In the past, it has been, I guess a few years ago, the legislators decided that clear and convincing evidence was needed to prove recruiting. And clear and convincing evidence is what they use for murder trials. You know, you have to have everything has to line up and it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And I know this first year I had 2 or 3 allegations on recruiting, and I would get one statement or 2 statements saying from people saying that this happened, and the school would come back with 5 statements and say it didn't happen. And when you add it up together, it wasn't clear and convincing evidence. So schools got a little slap on the wrist for not following proper administrative procedures, not having everything documented, not filling out the correct forms, when in the back of my mind, I know that recruiting took place. And it was a small school that had kids coming from 5 different counties. Some of the kids was driving themselves there every day. Homemade kid that lived in one county, parents rented a house in another county just so they could play for a certain team. And it all was seniors. And I've been going to attending schools elsewhere for 3 years and moving to senior. We know without a reasonable doubt that recruiting took place, but there wasn't clear and convincing evidence, so that school didn't have any sanctions or anything this year because there was nothing that we could prove it with clear and convincing evidence. Well, state law now says a preponderance of evidence. That just means I need 51%. I just need to have a little bit more that says you did than you didn't. So a point of emphasis for my department this year is we want allegations and we're going to pursue allegations. I've actually budgeted more money for investigations this year than I did for appeals because for some of the bylaws, there won't be as many appeals, so I don't need to spend that money on appeals. So we're getting a group of investigators throughout the state ready to go, and they're on alert to go investigate things because state legislators say they want recruiting, want us to clean the state of Florida as far as recruiting is concerned. And with that, let's talk about first offense. If you're a coach that's a school employee and that you are proved to have been recruited a kid to come to your school, right now the kid remains eligible unless the kid falsifies information to gain eligibility. But that coach forfeits $5,000 of their salary on the first offense. And some of the things like, but Florida House Athletic Association is looking for another way to make money. We don't get that money. That money stays in the school district. So if you only make $2,500 as a coach, but your teaching salary is $35,000, they're withholding that from your salary. It includes it's not just supplements, it includes your whole salary. Salary includes both parts of it for the first offense. Second offense, $5,000, another $5,000 withheld from your salary. And I'm still having a hard time as athletic director wondering how I'm going to have a coach that's being accused or proven recruited twice. And after the first time, there might have been a conversation. But $5,000 being withheld of your salary, suspended without pay for 12 months from coaching on the second offense. The third offense, another $5,000 withheld. But then my office is charged with sending a report to the Department of Education so that the review committee can look at whether they want to take your teaching certificate or coaching certificate. So they're putting, the legislators have charged us with taking more drastic actions to level off the playing field. And please don't be that first or second person that we have to make an example of in the state because, again, I look at it as a personal challenge to my department and saying that, hey, you guys haven't been doing a good enough job controlling recruiting. So we're going to be more active, more vigilant, and taking allegations a little bit more putting raising the priority level on allegations, since there should not be as many appeals based on some of the deals, because they want us to curtail that. And again, I repeat, the fines do not go to our association. That money stays within the school district. So the school district could create more money for if coaches are getting accused or proven to recruit, holding more money in the county office. But also, because some folks say, well, that's all you're doing to them. Well, no, it also states in the statute that our regular sanctions that we have for recruiting can also be imposed on the school too as well, forfeiting the contest, moving up classification, other fines to the school. So if it's a non-school member, somebody that's not getting paid, somebody, a parent or whoever, and it's found that they recruited kids to come to your school, then the school will see some sanctions. And one of the things that we look at, and we talked about this last night with Mr. Humphrey, is that when we do fines aren't always based on what it says in the book. You know, we have a little flexibility. So one of the things we do is we turn it back on the school district or the school and say, okay, what are you guys going to do? Even with suspension of kids, of your athletes. Kid gets ejected from a contest. I know Mr. Harrison talked about it later, but one of the first things he asks is, what are you doing as a school to correct the situation? And we look at what you guys do, and based on what you do, we can either lower what it says and give you the minimum, or if we don't feel what you're doing is justifiable for an action, we can say, all right, we're going to fine you the maximum amount, or maybe give you the maximum penalties and sanctions that come along with it. Any questions about recruiting, which I'm going to get into it a little bit more specifically later, but I want to talk to you about the House bills, parts of it, just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as recruiting is concerned. And again, I'm a big person, you know, I have quotes all around. I did that for years. Quotes help make the person that I am. But Maya Angelou, you know, she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, forget what you did, but never forget how you made them feel. And as coaches, you know, I think a lot of times we don't do our due diligence in communicating with each other or treating others the way we want to be treated. As a football coach, again, a dog parent, I'm going to hate to keep bringing up dog parent, but if a kid came to my school that I knew was at Vanguard or was at Vanguard previous years, first I need to pick up the phone and call the coach. Say, hey, tell me about this kid. I don't want you sending somebody over to me that was problems for you. That was the first thing. But then I wanted to know if any of my coaches, you felt that any of my coaches did anything that was inappropriate for that kid to come here to my school. Because I didn't. And we had that open line of communication, and it cut off a lot of issues. So if a kid did transfer, because of our open line of communication, we didn't have those issues with, okay, Craig recruited so-and-so to come to my school. So I'm telling you that because, again, the way you treat other people is the way, should be the way you want to be treated too. So please pick up the phone and have a conversation with folks. If your kid, family comes in and you know, they're probably running away from something in that other school that they didn't like. And again, I know as a coach we have enough problems as we already have with kids that are on our campus and the things that we're dealing with, let alone taking on somebody else's issue or somebody else's problem. The impact of House Bill 7929 on our bylaws. And this is a big one. The 3 bylaws that were removed, that come July 1st, those will now no longer be in place. One of the summer participation, and participation in the summer means there was a bylaw 9228 that talked about if you participate with a team during the summer and go to the athletic activities and events and stuff, it was a form of establishing residence with that school. That's no longer there. Previous contact in non-school athletic activities, playing a club team or whatever else, but our term is non-school athletic activities. That's what we call a club team. If you participated with the club, a coach, within the 365 days, and that kid comes to your school, that bylaw is gone. So if you're sending me an allegation saying, hey, you know, my basketball player played AAU ball with whatever school A during the summer, and now all of a sudden you just transferred to school A, left my school. That is no longer an issue. That is not a violation anymore, and that's supposed to state statute. And we talked about that bylaw back in October, taking it away because we had so many cases that came to us in appeals this year that because a kid played for a coach on a team, and the kid chooses schools for academic purposes, which they applied the year before, you get kids caught up in the appeal system, which is holding them out and being able to participate, that we put in a recommendation to take that away. Because at the end of the day, you're looking for improper contact and impermissible benefits. And if there's no improper contact or no impermissible benefits, what difference does it make if a kid play for a coach? I mean, they may like that coach's style, or it could be for whatever else reason. So we had made a recommendation to get rid of 924. 925 relocation of coach, we had also made a recommendation which passed. We had changed it that if the kid went first and then the coach came, the kid was eligible. Well, now it don't matter who goes first, who goes last, kids are eligible to participate by state law. So those are three major ones. There's some modifications in administrative control responsibility, which we talked about that in the student code of conduct. Member schools, now we have full members and we have partial members. So that was some amendments made for that part. Bylaw 9.2, which deals with attendance, we had to put in 9.2 all things that were listed in state statute to make sure that we were in compliance with state statute. For example, non-traditional students. In Bylaw 9.3 transfers, we had to include their language on transfers to make sure that our bylaw is in compliance with the transfer regulations. Bylaw 971 talks about EL2s and EL3s. Legislation put in, actually define participation in state statute that says any tryouts, conditioning, anything that's school-related athletic activities is considered participation from the standpoint of EL2s and EL3s, which now is required that before a kid does anything that's a school-related athletic activity, event, summer workouts, they're running the conditioning, lifting weights in the summer. The kid must have a completed EL2, which is the physical part, and EL3 on file before they do anything. And that's been a major issue because we've had kids throughout the state that during the summer come in and do summer workouts, the kids out there running and have a heart issue and drop down and goes into cardiac arrest. And worst case scenario, the kid dies. Now we got a lawyer that's standing there on the school district's office saying, did that kid have a physical? Was he cleared to participate in sports? Well, no, he got physicals yet because the sports season didn't start. But he was participating in school activity, and now the school district is out, probably got millions of dollars to that family for not making sure all the proper things were done before the kid participated. So now that's state law. It's not FHSAA policy. That is state law that before a kid does anything with you that's athletic activity, that's school related, they must have a physical.
Yeah, I'm going to give Craig a small little break here. Like EL2s and 3s, that's a common area that I cover. So kind of want to go over some things here. EL2, that's the kids, the physical exam form before they're able to compete, and the EL3 is the parental consent. Now, years past, remember there was the EL3, EL3CH, EL3CH addendum. Our board of directors met about a week and a half ago. They actually approved one universal EL3 form. So there is no more, starting next year, there is no more EL3CH, EL3CHA, which was the additional form we added last year. It's all now the EL3. So finishing out this school year, you can use all those forms, but starting next school year, for anything for next school year, you need that new EL3 form, because it is combined now, and it does have some additional information on there. Now, Craig had mentioned, we always kind of like to make sure that this is clear, is that, again, any school activity, like Craig mentioned, summer, there's 3 different times of the year. Here's how we define the times of the year. You got the summer, you got the off season, and you have the season. Obviously, the summer is that time of year when the kids aren't in school, and the schools are allowed, for county rules, the schools are allowed to do what the counties allow. There are some rules that deal with football, other sports. Again, it's up to your county. Off season, that's the time when the kids are in school. All right, but it's not your sports season. Again, you're allowed, again, per your county rules, for our rules, you are allowed to condition, weight train, run stadiums, etc. And then you have the season. So before a student athlete does anything school related, whether it's a summer activity, all-season activity, especially before they come out for tryouts, or at the beginning of the season, make sure they have those forms signed and filled out. And it's always not good, it seems to be, whenever I travel, there's always an issue that will arise. You see me over here on my phone, I do apologize for that. On the drive up here, just to give you an example, I got a call from our attorney, and there was a case, there's an incident going on in another part of the state. Girl was playing lacrosse about a year and a half ago, unfortunately had gotten hurt. All right. Good part of the story is the girl's healed now. She's okay now. But now what's happening is the family is suing the coach, the trainer, the school, the district, the officials, and us. Okay? Saying that we did not provide any care. The student was not informed that there was a chance for risk of getting injured. Okay? So that's when that EL3 comes into effect. The attorney called me and was very blunt with me, as he'll get at times. Him and I get along great, but at times he will be very, very blunt with me. He goes, call the school immediately, get a copy of the signed EL2, the physical, and the EL3s. Okay? Called the school this morning. Luckily, they have them all signed. Okay? If they did not have those signed, we're all in trouble. Okay? Again, most important part is the girl is fine now. All right? She had some issues she went through health-wise, but she's fine now. But then we deal with the back-end stuff. So if we didn't have those forms signed, we will be in big trouble. He just sent me a text just now. Now I have to check. As a head coach or a paid coach, you know you have to go through that NFHS concussion and sports course online prior to the start of the season. When Craig and I drive back today, that's one thing I have to pull up to make sure that coach had completed that course last year prior to the start of the season. If he didn't, that coach is in trouble. That school's in trouble. That district is in trouble. So these are real life scenarios when you see all these rules, and the last thing that we want to do from our end as a member of staff and our board and any of our committees is put more job responsibilities on you as a coach. You have a tremendous amount of job responsibility already. But these things are put in place for a reason. They are there for safety. You go through that training. You're going through this today. You get that AED training as a teacher and as a coach, I'm sure, in this area. You never want to have to use it. But if you do, you want to make sure you pay attention and you know. Unfortunately, the school I was at as an AD, the time I was there for 7 years, we lost two athletes. All right? The coaches were certified in CPR and AED training. They did all they could, but believe me, that's one of the worst things in the world when that happens. You have any doubt on knowing what all to do. Okay, so cannot stress these enough. It's not just a form to turn in. It's not just our office trying to give you, more work to do. These are important forms to let everyone know. And as you know as well, this past year, we're requiring student athletes to take the concussion and sports course. That's to get their help as well. When dealing with the head injuries, that's a really big deal now. There's actually a push for eliminating football and all other physical style sports out. All right. Most of us in here are probably not like for that, I'm assuming. I am who I am because of the sports I played. Okay, it developed me, and I think that's why we coach, is because of what it's doing for our student athletes, but we need to make sure we're safe. So make sure, again, just wanted to hop in here and talk about those EL2s and 3s, plus to give Craig a small little break. But again, cannot stress that enough. That is hugely important. Make sure all those are done prior to any participation on the school's end.
These next couple areas, we're going to sort of fly through a little bit. Bylaw 10.5.4 has always been in place, and I guess we just didn't read it enough as a staff to take advantage of it. So when we were going through with Representative Assembly back in October, when they were proposing bylaw changes, bylaw 10.5.4 now gives our staff the authority to look at individual cases we get a EL10 in, or for a really little kid. And if there's a true hardship there where it was something outside of kids' control and which created a hardship, now staff can go ahead and approve those kids and make those kids eligible instead of sending those kids to sectional appeals, which we think will cut sectional appeals in half, and specifically dealt with 951, the age, and 961, years of eligibility, gives us the opportunity to look at a kid where a kid could have been hospitalized for a year and missed most of a school year, and that's causing a fifth year, or something that was outside that the kids and the parents control, and every effort has been made to catch up, to get there, to graduate on time. We can look at that now in our office and say, okay, that kid's eligible, without having to wait a month to go to sectional appeals and go through the appeals process. So I think that was a big one. Bylaw 3.53 just talks about insurance in general. Insurance, make sure all kids are insured, and there's a definition that was added in Representative Simmons for sub-varsity participation and homeschool, home-zone public school. Policies a little bit, and I'm going to go over these real quick. Most of them are modified because of either transfer language that was in the bill or previous contact in 924 or just the recruitment part. So these were not changes, but just modifications to those particular policies that were based straight off state statute. I will tell you as a coach, policy 18, which deals with spring, if you're a football coach, is very important if you know policy 18. But if you have non-school teams, make sure you follow everything in policy 22. Think about hosting a camp or clinic, make sure you refer to policy 24, and showcases is under 26. So as a coach, I recommend that you be familiar with 22, 24, 36, and 37 as far as policies. Those are very important things that, especially 36 and 37, those impact you financially if you are not aware of those situations. And again, later on, we'll spend a little more time about recruiting, but want to make sure that these policies were impacted by 7029, that you're aware of those, not necessarily going through all of them, because most times you don't even deal with them, the ADs deal with them, but more to make you aware of those. The policy change, something new policy change?
Yeah, I'll jump on some. I'll probably call on your help though. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hop on in here. Sorry if I get too loud. I always get excited when I talk to groups. All right, these.
Policy 5, which deals with compliance seminar. Now there's several ways, well, we changed them into the policy so that we can include, this year for the first time, we allowed schools that it was their year to go to a compliance seminar to attend the FHSAA conference, which is in May, was in Orlando, and get compliance credit as opposed to having to go during the summer. So I know for football coaches, that's not the ideal time because I never went to FHSAA because it was doing spring football. But if you're AD and you're not a football coach, or if you're a coach and just want to attend, that was a chance to get compliance seminar. And basically the same presentation we gave at FHSAA is the same one that we give during compliance seminar. We also have a mid-year compliance seminar, which is held in January in our office. So if you're an AD and you run into some situation you're just not sure of, and maybe first, second, third year, and you want to get some extra training, it's held in our office, and it's an opportunity that you can come and get compliance seminar here as well.
I'll stand for a little bit. Okay. All right. Next one is dealing with a change in policy 6. This is not a significant change. Very few schools do this, but what it does is if you have a sport and you are independent in that sport, meaning you are not in the state series, that's our term for playoffs. So if you have a team that's not in the state series, you're allowed to have multiple varsity teams for that sport. So let's just throw out soccer for boys soccer. If you're an independent for boys soccer, your school can have multiple varsity teams. Again, there's not many independent schools, but this is allowed now. Policy 7, this is a big one. I'm going to spend a few minutes on this one. Policy 7 in the handbook deals with the sanctions of a tournament. You host a softball tournament, you've had to turn in a form to our office. The ADs are probably very familiar with that. Now on, moving forward, all right, hopefully you've seen the reduction of fees of those over the last few years. Now moving forward, any regular season tournament does not require a sanction to our office. There is no fee. Whatever winter tournament you want to host for your winter sports, spring break tournament, whatever you have in your area is on you. No matter what the sport is, you do not have to turn in a regular season sanction form anymore. Preseason games, still. Okay, that's still in effect. Regular season, we're not collecting any of those fees anymore. And I won't brag on our board and our executive director. Dr. Deering has done a terrific job. You know, been on staff now 8 to 9 years, trying to find ways to get money back in the school's hands or to keep it in the school's hands. Okay, this is one of the ways. The sanction fees for the tournaments have been reduced year after year after year, going to 0 for next year. A total amount of savings out of all that time in the span of the last 3 years has been $1.5 million back to the schools because we have not collected the money. So we're trying what we can to change the policies to keep the money at the schools in. We're seeking more of the sponsors on our end. We're getting more deals with TVs, which also helps out the schools to get them exposed more, get the student athletes on TV more. So that's been a huge push. And hopefully that's something, you know, the school can try to host more of the tournaments. Again, if the county or the AD say okay. But hopefully it'll get more money for your program so you can do more stuff for the student athletes. Very happy with that one. Policy 8 is more of a county thing. It established the minimum limits for general liability insurance. No huge change there, but again, that's more of a county issue. Policy 9, that's another financial part of the book. It's a financial part of the policy. That provides you can join by member or more for your ADs and your counties. You can join, instead of each year renewal, you can join as a member of the Fort High School Athletic Association on a 5-year thing. A little bit of a discounted cost, but the main thing is you don't have to keep filling out the form each year. Policy 10, this one's an interesting one. This one has kind of come up from our sport advisory committees and our AD advisory committee. We've had our sport advisory committees kind of talk to us. This deals with the minimum number of games that a student athlete must compete in order to participate in the state series. As you know, it's been 4 across the board in all sports. But some of our sport advisory committees have been kind of talking to our staff and our board the last 3, 4, 5 years and said, well, it doesn't make any sense to me if I play 4 games out of a 10-game season in football, then I play playoffs. But if I play 4 games out of a 25-game soccer season, then I also play in playoffs. So it didn't match up. So what we did is we used 4 out of 10 as a percentage, that 40% as a guide. So we changed the actual, the requirement. So if you're sports that allow 25 games, okay, student athlete must compete in at least 10 of those in order to compete in the state series. A couple other sports around 7, handful around 5, some around 4. Now I say the 40% is a guideline, only because working with some of the sport advisory committees and the athletic director advisory committee is they were concerned with some of your outdoor sports. You know, with the rain outs, talking about golf, tennis, swimming. So we kept those at 4. All right? But please go over the policies. All these are on the headlines. And again, we don't just want to read them to you today, but kind of explain where they came from. But these are in our headlines on the website, the actual specific changes. So I encourage you to look at your sport and make sure you're familiar. Policy 11, dealing with playoffs again, state series. This deals with the state series entry list. You know, you have the roster through the year. You get the playoffs, you turn in your state series entry list. There were a handful of sports that didn't have a cap. They had an unlimited amount. Again, with work from our athletic director advisory committee, they said, hey, we need to establish a cap on these. We didn't want to establish a cap that would hurt something. So track and field, competitive cheerleading, wrestling, and I knew I was going to forget the other one, but they do have a cap now, but it's a pretty high cap. Flag football is my 4th. All right. So it has a high cap, but there is a cap. Like track and field has 60, but that's per gender. So 60 boys, 60 girls. Stop. So again, it just establishes a cap. So all sports do have a cap. Policy 12, this deals with the classification. And those who were here last year, I talked briefly about how that's done, but this just says how a non-traditional student is counted. A non-traditional student, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a non-traditional student, pretty much how I look at it, is a student who plays for your school but doesn't necessarily sit in your school. Homeschool student, that's the best example that I give. What the policy said is your average number of students during 2 years would be added to your total. So if your school, just on an easy number, your school's at a 506 kids sitting in your school, and you have an average of 10 non-traditional students each year, that 10 would be added to it. But instead of doing an average now on a 4-year cycle, it's just going to be that previous year. So if you have 8 that previous year, that 8 non-traditional homeschool students will be added to your total count. Policy 14, a few of the changes in there. One, we've added a 9A class in some sports. It just adds the requirement for the minimum seating to host a playoff game for those. It's same as the 8A. There's also an additional part of the policy that we put up at the top of the policy. It says if both schools agree to allow the game to take place in that facility and it doesn't meet the specs, it is okay. So we will allow that to happen. That's something that had been occurring already. So that actually is allowed moving forward.
Policy 16 deals with virtual school charter students. And actually, policy 16 was amended, but now it's state statute that if a kid attends a charter school that don't offer a sport, or don't offer sports, that they can play at the system, charter school, that's part of that system. And online, electronic forms, there's been some talk about that, but just
Again, we talked about the EL 2s and 3s. 3s are probably a little bit more common. Board did pass a policy. Our attorney did some homework on this. A digital signature is now allowed for the EL3. There's many groups out there, there's online groups who have reached out to our office and said, we're able to put your EL3, your consent form online. That way a parent doesn't have to, student athlete doesn't have to bring the form home to mom or dad, get mom and dad to sign it, bring it back, hand it to you, probably hand it to you as you're walking to class or you're walking somewhere, you jam it in the pocket and you forget where all it may have been. This allows it to be done online. They set up a portal, they create their account and they sign it online. That is an acceptable means now. We're not going to say, hey, this company is better than another. That will be a school decision or a district choice, okay? So that is an option that is allowable now if you want to go online with the EL3s. What I'm hearing is some counties are starting to do that with their own forms as well. I know many counties and schools have their own forms in addition to ours. But if that's an option, that's something that the county can decide here. But it is allowable per our rules now. Policy 26.
Policy 17, which deals with foreign exchange students, is just putting some stipulations, some restrictions on how many students can be at one household and participate on a team. We've had some host parents call, and because I guess the funding or revenue they generate from hosting these kids want to take as many as we allow. So we have to put a cap on that because we don't want one parent hosting 10 kids in one home. Policy 26, which is something new. And every year we get requests for kids to underclassmen to go participate in all-star events. One of the prime examples is USA Football, and some other folks have these combine showcases, whatever you want to call them, that kids are invited to participate or that they earn the right to participate based on attending camps. And the way policy is written now in 26, it's only for seniors if it's considered an all-star event. And we talk about this as staff, and there's so many of these kids that are paying $1,200, $1,500 to be a part of it, and parents are taking them out of state, and so we changed the policy that as long as it's not taking place in the state, If a kid is invited to go to North Dakota for a 3-day football, USA football development camp or all-star event, we allow those kids to go now. Where in the past, those underclassmen were not able to participate. Policy 35, that was amended to add 2 new terms. One is home state program, which and other sports academies, and put restrictions on those folks. Again, Martin Luther King, the time is always right to do the right thing, to do what is right. Academic contracts. I've had several conversations with folks from this area talking about academic contracts, and those are on a EL5. And let's talk about academic contracts. The earliest a student can sign an academic contract, the earliest, will be the second semester of the 9th grade year. So that means that first semester their GPA was below 2.0. So the earliest they can sign a contract is at the beginning, change of semesters for the second semester of his 9th grade year. Per the contract, which I'll bring up in a little bit, that kid must sit out for a whole semester being ineligible, can't participate in anything. And I've got a couple phone calls where a kid was put on, we signed him up for a contract, and we allowed him to play JV because it's not varsity, it doesn't impact state series. That is against not just our bylaws, that's against state statute. That kid cannot participate for one solid semester while they're ineligible. During that semester, the kid has to earn a 2.0 during that semester. And it also talks about doing things to make sure, like signing up for summer school classes to try to get back on track. It's all about trying to get the kid to get back on track for graduation. And which my next slide shows an example. This is the EL5, and A, B, C, and D must be completed before that kid gains eligibility. So at the earliest, the kid will be able to get back on the field, and that's saying that they signed the contract in January for the EL5 in January. It'll be the first semester of the sophomore year. Earliest that a kid will be able to participate after completing the contract. So if you have a kid that's a 9th or 10th grader and they drop below 2.0 overall, as soon as that semester or that time comes on, have to sign a contract again. So that next semester, they're not playing any sports. They can practice, they can't play in any contest. And this is all levels. And again, the questions or interpretation I got was that, well, they're not playing varsity because that doesn't, they're playing sub-varsity because of the impact state series. Well, state law says they can't play in any sports for that whole semester. So they got to have one semester they do not participate in any sports. And during that semester that they don't participate in sports, the GPA must be a 2.0 or higher. And again, efforts are made towards summer school or taking a class online to make up those credits. Now that next semester following that kid can participate. So just want to make sure we all clear with that. And that form, like I said, it's stated on that form. So if you're one of those schools that you call or have not been following that, the form states exactly what you're supposed to do. It's just a matter of making sure we follow all 4 steps before that kid is allowed to participate. Practice, they can practice. But again, as far as participating in the contest, can't play on freshman, can't play on JV, they can't play in any contest whatsoever.
So the only time you can actually be on an academic contract is your 10th grade year. You can't be on one in your 9th grade year because you're eligible to begin your 9th grade year. And then you got to sit out a semester
So
once you get your GPA.
But you initiate the contract as soon as the kid becomes eligible,
Right.
at that point in time. So
You can't, 10th grade year is the only time.
correct. That's true. Any questions about this? I just want to make sure we're all clear, all on the same page with this. Again, as Brian and I had several conversations about this one. This cartoon, this is one that it was exactly the way I felt when I was back in Northern High School. When we used to send stuff to the Florida High School Association, it was almost like they don't listen. And I'm sitting there talking, and we, as coaches, we're making recommendations, and nobody's listening, nobody's getting the message. So, again, I always like to bring this one up because, again, I know exactly how you guys feel. And when I come and I try to get input, and we try to make changes based on what I thought as a coach or what coaches have shared with me to make your life a little bit easier out there. So I'm also pointing this back at you guys. Stuff that we present today, don't just sit here and so yeah, I'm not listening. Make sure you take this back and apply it to what you do every day. Recruiting. Recruiting is in policy 36. The keywords for recruiting, the buzzwords: pressure, urge, or enticing. If you're doing anything that's pressuring a kid to either come or to stay at your school, or urging the kid to stay or to come to your school or enticing, that's recruiting. And again, this is a point of emphasis for my office this year, and I'm telling you now, and we'll tell everybody, that we're looking for people that are violating the recruiting policy because, again, the state legislators have challenged our department, say that maybe we're not doing a good enough job with it. So if you're urging, pressuring, or enticing a kid to come to your school, that's a violation of policy 36 and 37. And it doesn't just mean coaches, it could be, a parent or whatever else. So please have this conversation with your parents and let your parents know that, that possible more win that we could get by having this kid is not as important as, number one, the reputation of your school, but putting those other 50 kids that's on the team in jeopardy of having to forfeit contest or, get moved up to a higher classification or a school paying fines based on what we think the difference one kid's going to make on our team. Improper contact, it can be either directly or indirectly. And again, we'll get some, and it's about urgent effort to pressure, urge, or entice a kid to change schools. Through electronic devices, because now we're in the technology stage now and nobody writes letters anymore. It's all text, or it's Facebook, or it's tweets, or Snapchat, or all other social media outlets out there. Please be careful with what you put, because once you put it out there and it's attached to your school, this past spring, which I'm going to show you some examples a little bit, we be getting inundated with tweets that's coming from schools, and show you some things. And the question that's come up now that we're looking at, and we're putting together a task force, is there's a fine line between promoting your program and enticing the kid to come join your program. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Impermissible benefits is just whatever you're offering to one kid, you can offer every kid in your school. Or that need to be afforded to every kid in your school. So for example, if I'm coach and little Johnny lives right down the road, and I'm providing a ride for little Johnny, well, I better be able to provide a ride for any kid that attends my school. Provide a ride for them at home. Or if I'm helping them buy lunch for a kid, I better buy every kid lunch at school. If not, it's an impermissible benefit. And one of the things we talked about earlier, discussed, the FHSAA comment came up about coaches going to middle schools or to talk to kids, or ADs going to middle schools to talk to kids. And question came up, well, what happens, because private school, a guy came up to me, he's like, well, public schools can do it, why can't we go to those middle schools and talk to those kids? Well, I know in my county, if a private Trinity Catholic was one of the schools in my county, and I can guarantee you our middle school principals are not allowing Trinity Catholic to come in and talk to any of their kids. Well, that's an impermissible benefit, because I'm not making that available. What I'm making available to the public schools, I'm not making it available to the private schools. So we took a stance that we don't allow any of our ADs or coaches to go to the middle schools. You can send a flyer over and say, hey, I'm having open house or having a parent meeting, information meeting, and whoever wants to come, the school, middle school, pass that information out. And now those parents come over there and then they can get information about your program. So it's not you enticing it, it's just I'm providing general information. Or if you do get a situation where you are going over to mentor kids, because I was in that same spot where our middle school felt that the kids over there knew me and respected me, they wanted to come talk to a kid about academics, talk to them about behavior. I had to be very careful what I said. It was about, whatever school you choose to go to, high school. Because in our high school, we had several magnet programs, and we had a magnet fair. So kids, even though they live a mile away from North Marion High, then they still have to go to North Marion High. We had to be very careful that it was just general information. Hey, no matter what school you go to, you got to have a 2.0. People can look at your discipline record. If you get in trouble all the time, you're not going to be on most sports teams. You're going to end up getting cut or not or dismissed. So make sure whatever you do for one kid, you make sure you do it for all kids. Just talk about middle schools a little bit. These are examples of text messages. The one on the mile on your left, that a coach sent to a kid. The kids, it had to be a private school. This guy, I actually spoke to him on the phone. The mom came in and filled out enrollment papers and said he was coming and met with them first, met with their academic folks. And even though the kid was still at the public school, coach started sending the kid these text messages. Need a quarterback and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, that kid said he's coming there, but he's not on your campus yet. He's not your student. You can't talk to him about sports-specific things in that manner. The one on the right there, and this one was on a football coaches or football schools webpage, and I'm sorry I'm using football, but these are the ones that come in this spring. Football coaches, a dad tweeted this saying that if your kid wants a Division I scholarship, they need to come play, and you live in this county, you need to play for this school. So that was sent out by dad. Well, then the head coach, he has a Twitter account, he retweeted that comment. And within 5 minutes, that was sent to my office, screenshots. And next time they'll call the county AD like that, he's like, Craig, I know, we've already got it taken down. But things like this get people in trouble. And based on the new recruiting statutes, that's $5,000 a year salary when you get forfeited. Because that that's preponderance of evidence right there. So if you just got money that you can throw away and your folks will continue to hire you, please do this. I value $5,000, that's like a lot of money. And so think about what you put, because again, once you tweet it out there, anybody that's following you, and I'm football administrator myself, I'm friends with a lot of former football coaches, basketball coaches, just in the positions I've been in, and so we follow each other, and I see the tweets come in, it pops up on my alert, and I pull it up and look at it like, oh, you got to be kidding me. What are people thinking? Because it goes out and people are going to save it. So you can go back and erase it. But I promise you, somebody will save it and will wait for the right moment and use this right about the time your team makes the playoffs and about the third or fourth round right before getting state, and then we get sent to office. And, with the 45-day rule, you usually get the playoffs will let you continue. But somebody is always out there watching to see what you send and will make a copy of it and use it when they feel it's convenient or that it's beneficial to them.
What's a 45-day rule?
If we get an allegation and it's 45 within 45 days of the playoffs on your school, we will allow we will allow the school to continue playing and investigate it either once the state series is over with and then conclude. So it's been issues. The basis is to keep folks from knowing things and just hanging on to it until you get in the playoffs, and then want to try to get you taken out of the playoffs.
Is that 45-day rule, is that you?
It's always
It's something I knew. It was actually put in place before Craig was on staff. We had a school who had the information, because when they sent us the information, it actually had the actual dates on the emails. And they didn't turn in the information until they got beat on the Friday night. Unfortunately, it was a football issue. Again, they keep on using football. It was a football issue. They had turned it in the following week after they got beaten and they were thrown out of the playoffs, because what they thought is like they were going to slide into their spot in the playoffs. So what happened is when they turned in the information, our office took a look at it and said, well, we're getting this on November 12th, but the email is dated September 3rd. Why either didn't you send it, because it was two schools in the same county, why didn't you send it to your colleague then or send it to us then? And they said, well, we wanted to see how the season was going to play out. So after that, the board did establish the 45-day rule. So again, if it's turned in, we'll allow the school to kind of keep on going to playoffs and look at it once the playoffs are over.
You dealt with player texts, players from one team texting players from another team.
We try. The question is about players sending other players text. We try not to take action on player to player, because kids are going to talk and they're going to try to, what we'll look for is, did a coach tell you to send that text? And we'll try to figure that out, because we've seen that in scenarios where, okay, I'm not going to send that text as a coach, but I'm going to tell little Johnny, hey, I need you to send a text, to Craig, we need to come play football for us, and go to work to the kids. So if that's the case, then we'll take action. But we have not taken action when it's player to player, because kids are going to be kids and going to say things that in school or a coach may not have any idea about. Next one, this was school in Northeast County, one of the Northeast counties, and head coach sent out a tweet, and basically it was aimed at the schools in his district, saying that, hey, I got 30 offer letters today for my kids. I bet your school hadn't got that many in 3 years. And, the question is, well, he's promoting his program. No, you're not promoting your program. You're enticing kids to come. Because you'll see on the next slide there, one of the kids from a different school responded to him. Like, hey, send some of the coaches my way. So now that's a form of, you blurring that line between promoting your program and enticing kids to come to your school. And our definition, if you are talking about the kids in your school and the things that they accomplish, the things that people that are on your campus, that's promoting the program. But now I'm making comparisons to somebody else in the county or another school. Now you're trying to make one side look better than the other side, and that's, in our opinion, that's enticing. And saw this on Facebook a couple days ago, talking about Rolls Royce and Bentleys. I've never seen a Rolls Royce commercial or a Bentley commercial. And the point is that, you know, there's value. Customers already know the value of those cars and those vehicles, so they don't, Rolls Royce don't have to spend money on commercials. And the lesson of this is, if your program is doing what you think it's doing, you don't have to talk about it, because everybody already know about it. They know the value of your product. If you're doing a lot of talking about your product, you're trying to sell it to somebody because it's not selling itself. So be careful what you put out there. I just put that on there just to tell you to be careful, because again, folks are looking for things to send allegations to our office on. And again, we've been challenged with trying to clean up the recruiting stuff that's going on in the state of Florida. So if it's enticing, and you know, that's a key word, you know, pressure. The old days of me coming up to you, giving you money, or meeting with your mom and dad, or going in the house, making a house home visit, those days are long over and done. Now it's through social media, and it's just, I'm putting things out there because I want folks to look at what we're doing in my school that makes my school better than another school. And then if I make reference that, hey, this is better than your school, now we have an issue with that. And right here, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, you do better. So hopefully today, I think this is probably my last slide. Hopefully today, some of the things that we shared with you provides you with more knowledge so that you can do better. And now that you know better, do better. And that's what we ask. Here's our contact information. Now we can open up the questions that you guys may have for either one or two. We suggest everything else to add.
How long do you suggest to keep your EL2s and EL3s upon student graduation?
Very, very good comment there. Did everyone hear that? The question was, how long do you keep your EL2s and 3s? 7 years. It is a written bylaw in our handbook keeping those 7 years. Because again, what all could happen? Once that student's done 5 years down the road, the student could come back and say, I got hurt on this, I didn't know I was going to get injured. You need to have those forms. So 7 years.
Do we have to keep the hard copy, or can you absorb all the time?
No, the question was, do you actually have to have the hard copy? The answer to that is no. You can scan them as a PDF. You can, however you want to keep them. Just make sure you have them somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
We've been proactive for our work, getting the EL3s and 2s, those who finish up the dates who are already getting them expired. I already had the EL3CH and all that, they've already turned it in. Now that we have this new EL3CH, that's it. Do I need to send that back to that family to get them to sign the new form, or when
Yes.
I do?
All right, here's also one other question I get, since the board passed a new thing. Remember, the current school year, you're using the EL2, EL3, EL3CH, and the EL3CHA. Those are still good for this school year. So for those who are continuing in the playoffs and those who are doing spring football, those forms are still okay if the date is appropriate. Moving forward to next year, so any summer activity, any tryouts on August 1st next year, got to have the new EL3 because it's got different information on it now. There is new additional information. Same with the EL2s. Very important. Thank you for asking. Very good question.
Another question. When people do get in trouble and there are penalties and all, why is that not more public on the website? That might be a little bigger deterrent, because people get in trouble, we never know it. We don't know what the penalties are. So where do you see that? How come you don't put it on the front of the website?
Sure. Those in the back may not have heard that. The question was, those schools who actually do get in trouble, how come that's not put on the website and promoted? twofold, I'll say. One is, we're kind of trying to clean up what the image of the FHSAA is. Like we do, we again, overall the Florida High School Athletic Association, because without the members, our staff, we don't exist, is we actually try to promote the good. So that our role has kind of been, let's get the good information out there. So the bad information we've kind of held on a hold. And also, to be completely frank, this information is probably a little bit more important. The legislature's kind of been talking to us about that and saying, all you guys do is fine and penalize and do that kind of stuff. So it was at the request of them to start. But it is a good point. I actually see it. But we're kind of moving in the other direction to actually promote the positives. Yes, sir.
That policy 10 that says they have to play 40% of the games. Now, if some kid gets pulled up at the end, like in baseball, they have 25 games, so that means 10 games they have to play in. We got to turn in our form, I think it's April the 11th. If a kid's playing JV and he gets pulled up,
I count.
so his JV games count toward it.
Correct. Very, very, very good point. And first, let me stress this too. We talked about the 40%. That was only used as a guide. There's actually a specific number in there for all sports. But the question was, I have a kid who's playing at the JV level and gets pulled up at the end. The number of games is at any level. So the JV games do count. Anything else?
Justin, would you or Craig address the restrictions with regard to what kind of contact is not allowed, and again, what kind of contact is allowed regarding high school coaches making connection with middle school students who are zoned to attend their school and those that are not zoned to attend their schools. We've got athletic directors with all the good intentions of letting young people know that are in middle school what's happening at our school this summer, and we want to do that right, not wrong. And so, could you touch base on those things for us again?
Even high school, let's talk about the high school part first. Kid that's not attending your school and comes up to you, you have a casual conversation. I'm out at the mall, and I know Johnny plays on school, or Justin plays on school B. I coach at school A, and Justin walks to me, have a casual conversation with me. Casual conversations are fine. It's the fact when we start talking sports specific, where Justin may say, I may know Justin plays quarterback. And in my school, I need a quarterback. And I start walking up to Justin, we have a casual conversation. And then the conversation turns into, Justin, man, my quarterback just graduated this year. We really need a quarterback. Well, now you've learned the lines a little bit. That's not casual conversation. You're talking sports specific and specifically to what you need as a school. So I'm offering Justin, in so many words, hey, I need a quarterback. You play quarterback. Why don't you come to my school and play? If I'm just out the ball, we have to pay, how's your season going? Oh, good. Our season's going well. There's nothing specific about what I need at my school or what position you play or how's your things going. Those kind of casual conversations, those going to happen. Because in small towns, or everybody knows everybody. And you go out, people know who you are, parents know who you are, and come up to you. If the conversation gets to, even with a parent, gets to where they're asking about how can they get the kid in your school? What do I need to do to get my kid in your school? I love what you do. Refer them to your administration. Hey, you need to go to talk to our principal, our assistant principal, our athletic director at the school. They can provide you that information. I cannot get into specifics because, again, you never know the intentions of some of those parents. Some of those parents may be on as a trap to try to get you to say something, and now going to turn it into our office with an allegation that, oh, Coach Damon was recruiting, trying to get me to come to school when you just was trying to provide general information. So don't let yourself get caught in that situation. Back to the middle schools. And again, this is a completely different. When I was a coach, we didn't have control over enrollment in Marion County. We only had magnet programs. There was a little magnet fair, and wasn't a whole lot of kids participating in the magnet programs at different schools when I first started coaching. So if a kid lived in North Marion middle school zone, 99% of those North Marion middle school kids came to North Marion High School. And so That was zone. Now when you think about zones now, school zone districts, it's more for transportation purposes. Because with school choice, most schools have a control open enrollment plan, and kids can apply to different schools. Yeah, they may live a mile away from the school, but they're technically not yours until they actually step foot on your campus. So that blurs the line a little bit about what I can say and what I can do, because those kids have choices now. Come school year 17-18, the whole state of Florida is considered the boundary. If you can provide transportation, you live in Okaloosa, and I want to come to school at Fort Walton Beach High School, and I can provide my own transportation to get there every day, and there's a seat available, and that kid can go there and play. So that's the things that we sort of have to be careful about, because it blurs the lines a little bit, because it is changing. So my recommendation is to send a flyer to the school, say that here's a night for football, we got football or volleyball, all our fall sports, have a parent information meeting.
What about if your middle school has pre-registration in early spring and they're registered for our school? We can go talk to them, can't we?
Provide general information.
Right.
Not specific. But again, even though they may pre-register, that kid could choose to go to a private school or go somewhere else. Something could happen over the summer, and that kid goes somewhere different, and it's putting you sort of in a situation. So that's why I'm being more cautious. As long as you provide general information when you go to schools, and I prefer ADs or administrators, because coaches, I know as a football coach, before I became AD, when I went to the middle school, I was talking about football. I didn't care nothing about basketball, I didn't care nothing about swimming and diving and track and field. It was about my football program. And that's all I really talked about. When I became AD and I went to school, then I talked about all 28 programs that we offer. So just knowing from personal experience, not telling you something that I think that may happen. I know what I did as a coach. Because again, as a football coach, I went AD, I had tunnel vision. It was all about football when I went to middle school. I went to elementary school talking. That's all I talked about. So to me, I advise or recommend that if someone is going to go to the school, let me be the athletic director. Because the athletic director is going to talk about the global program, the athletic program. Not going to get specific about how many state titles we won or how many kids we put in college. It's just general information. You need to have a 2.0. This is when our programs are going to start the summer workouts. And this is a physical form. You need to have this completed before you start summer workouts. And we got parent information meeting on such and such night. So just provide them that general information. Because again, I do understand that middle school kids sign up for programs or attend certain high schools, and they say they're coming, but in this day and age, people change their mind, next day. And we've seen it happen, all the time. So like I said, I would prefer, just from a standpoint of not getting accused that AD goes or send a flyer, and have an fall informational sports meeting in April or whenever, and let the parents make that choice to come to your meeting, you're on your campus, and now you talk to them about those more specific things. Can I ask you a question?
So Craig, let me kind of get right down to it.
Okay.
If I'm the basketball coach at Holt High School, and there's Holt Middle School and Gallagher Middle School and Milligan Middle School, as the high school basketball coach, may I go to Holt Middle School, talk to the 8th graders there, Gallagher Middle School, Milligan Middle School, talk to the 8th graders about my basketball program?
My answer would be no, just because right now, and again, 17-18 school choice is statewide, so there is no more boundary lines anymore. Yeah, that kid may be attendance-wise for the districts, should go there, but that's not a given. So you blur those lines a little bit, and that kid, now it could be, well, my mom's already signed me up to go to Justin Harrison High School, and you coming over here talking to me now, you're trying to entice me to come to your school by what I'm saying in my presentation. And one thing it takes is an allegation on it and push you in a position where you can't really defend yourself. So to me, the best thing, and we're even looking at talking about it a little bit, because at the FHSAA, private schools challenge. Well, why can the public schools go to the middle schools? We're in a marketing business to try to attract kids to our school, but why can't we go make a presentation at the middle school? And my question is, how many middle schools would allow a private school AD or administrator to come in and talk about sports or talk about just their program? It's not going to happen. So we're looking at and talking about, hey, just cutting it out for everybody and just saying, send a flyer over there with that information. Let those kids come to your campus. So now it's a parent, the kid, and everybody else making a choice to come to your information meeting. as opposed to me going there and talking to kids that I don't know where they're going or what they have in mind, or now their kids making a choice, or the parents making that choice. It just sort of takes it out of the coaches. Coaches got too much other things to deal with, and I understand they want to figure out who those kids are, but hey, do an informational meeting and maybe do a fall and a winter one, and actually fall really is when you do it. Talk about all your programs in the fall meeting and provide information. But the parents and the kids coming to your campus, coming to you and seeking that.
Send the flyers out to the middle school.
So you send flyers. So I would say send a stack of flyers.
You can send flyers to everyone.
Correct. Correct.
And that's not.
That's just information on it. That's not encouraging. But
That's not encouraging.
it's general information. If I got 10 schools there to choose from, how's that enticing a kid? Because Damon Middle School, there's a Fort Walton Beach flyer there, there's a Niceville flyer there, there's all other school flyers there. It's up to the parents to choose to what information they go to. It's just provide the information.
I send a cover poster.
Is that
advertise.
same apply to all schools still?
It's free high school.
It's young middle school, but not in our association. We're governed by county, association, county association. Any other questions?
Could you just reiterate a little bit on the student-to-student contact? Because there is a bylaw that states student-to-student contact as well. But you just told me earlier that text-to-text is not a student contact. The kids will be kids. So, I mean...
It does talk about student contact in our bylaws. We have looked at least in the past, I did any issues this year, but it's in ours, everybody else in the past. They looked at student contact and looked to see if someone was behind and pushing that student contact. For example, a coach that was encouraging the student to contact the kid from other schools.
So if little Johnny says, Coach B said we need some wide receivers, you sure do look good. How's that? Is that student-to-student allowable contact, or do we have to look at that?
We would look at that because Coach B's name is specifically stated in
It was
there.
just little Johnny saying, we don't have any wide receivers. We need you. That's absolutely acceptable.
I ain't saying it's absolutely acceptable. We would look at that to make sure that there is no push from someone else to urge them and entice them. Because right now, these kids playing these club teams in other sports, and it's very, very tough to enforce that. Because unless you're policing your kids and you're controlling their text message every day.
I think it just goes back to the profession that we got here. We can all govern this ethical by doing the right thing.
Correct.
The sad part is some of us aren't. But, that's why we build jails.
Correct.
We all want to do the right thing. But until there's some punishments handed out, I don't think you're going to see any change in the action.
And again,
I know that's what you guys are doing, so hopefully we'll see some movement in a positive direction.
And again, that's one of the things that I'm taking as a personal challenge, because it is challenging my department. And I've seen it as a coach, and one of some of the same things too. How in the world does this happen? Every year in, year out, I see 16 kids transfer to that school from all around.
It's just sad that the wind is bad.
Correct. And we made the statement too, as soon as the bill was passed, that the true colors of some coaches and school administrators are really going to come out now. You'll know who's about W's, who's about kids. Because with kids being allowed to transfer, and we ain't got no boundaries, we just taking anybody in, everybody in, and ain't calling anybody to communicate. They tell you that they're all about W's. W is the most important thing as opposed to the kids' well-being. No other questions? Thank you all for having us today and the hospitality you guys have shown us. And again,